What up, YouTube? It's your boy, Wall Street, ready to talk some hoops. And like a sprained ankle, boy, I ain't nothing to play with, like the boy Drizzy said. So, now that that has been addressed, I need everyone to stop playing with me because I'm not playing with you. I want to talk about Devin Vassell, who is a shooting guard / small forward for the San Antonio Spurs, one of the most interesting teams in the NBA, as they feature Victor Wembanyama, and they now feature Chris Paul as well, one of the greatest point guards of all time, despite only being 6 feet tall, which a lot of people say he's not even that tall. He's like 5'10", 5'11", what have you. Makes it even more interesting, even more great, the things that he's doing. But Devin Vassell has gotten, a little bit of a bad rap recently because he's had a lot of injuries, and they just announced as well that he's probably not going to return or make his season debut until mid-November-ish because he's dealing with a stress reaction. They did not say stress fracture or anything like that. A stress reaction in his right foot, which also was the contributing factor to why his season last year ended early. So Devin Vassell is a really good player. He's a really good player. He's pretty much improved every single year that he's been in the league, which, I want to give credit to the Spurs as well. They have a great organization and great player development staff, which is what allows them to really mold their draft picks into what they want them to be. And they, typically, more often than not, go on to have really good NBA careers, whether they stay with the Spurs or they go to other franchises. They typically know how to pick them, and they also know how to develop them and mold them into players that are going to have long, impactful careers in the NBA. So Devin Vassell was drafted 11th overall in the 2020 NBA draft. He played 62 games that season, only starting 7 of them, logging 17 minutes a game, and only averaged 5.5 points. But in his sophomore season, 2021 to 2022, averaged 12.3 points per game. Season after that, averaged 18.5, and then last season, averaged 19.5 points per game. So, a lot of people are probably going to say, well, that's because their talent was getting worse and worse. They didn't really, have a lot of players to really contribute last season, which fair enough, but they have Victor Wembanyama now, who's a generational, game-shattering talent. And despite them having talent or not, he's improved every single year, which is a hard thing to do year over year, let alone every single year in your career. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's, averaging 20 plus points per game this season. They're going to need him to do that if they plan to make the play-in or, the playoffs. So he's an interesting player. He came in 12th in most improved player voting last year. Played 68 games, but he hasn't played 70 games since his sophomore season. And the most games he's played in his career was that sophomore season where he played 71 games, starting 32 of them. So I don't think it's fair to call him injury prone yet. This is a rebuilding team. They haven't really made a lot of noise in the league since he's been with them. So if he's continuing to miss more and more games year after year, that's when I would start to get a little bit worried. But, he went from playing only 38 games in 2022 to 2023 to playing 68 last year. And frankly, last year I felt like he was injured more, which is obviously not the case because, he wouldn't have played 30 more games. But I think people now are just paying a little bit more attention to the Spurs. And that's why people are kind of saying, oh, well, he's injury prone, this or that, whatever. So I think the Spurs have several options. And I think the first, which I'll discuss, is what they're probably going to do is just continue to develop the guy, right? Continue to figure out what's going to keep him the most durable and allow him to play the most games possible. So, like I said, they have a great player development staff over there. I'm sure they have great trainers as well. Just figuring out, if guys need to switch up their diets, if they need to switch up their workout habits, things of that nature. Do they need to wear different shoes? Like what he seems to keep having a problem with his foot. So that's a situation where they might look to switch up, the type of shoes that he's wearing. They might put different soles in his shoes, what have you. I'm not sure. But I don't think this is a guy that they're just going to, trade away, right? Like they just signed, or maybe they trade for him, Harrison Barnes. He's on the roster now. So Harrison Barnes and Devin Vassell, frankly, remind me of, the same player type. I think Devin Vassell is going to have a bigger impact in the league, if he continues to play the way he's playing and improving and stays healthy. But, having Harrison Barnes on the roster at least allows you to have somebody in case Devin Vassell goes down with an injury again. But, they just signed him to a big extension. He's basically signed through the 2029 NBA season now. So they got a lot of money guaranteed to him, and it's a pretty good deal. I mean, he's making like $27 million, basically on average. He has 1 year towards the end of his contract where it dips. They're probably just structuring his contract, to figure out when other free agents will be available to pair with Victor and the rest of the team. So, I mean, I don't know. This seems like a good value player to have on your roster, regardless if he's going to miss, 20 games in a season. As long as he's healthy for playoff time, does it really matter? If he's continuing to improve, he's just not playing, let's say, 82 games a year. Say he's playing 65 games a year. Is it really something that is going to make or break your team? Right? As long as he's healthy during the playoffs, I think that's the number one thing that matters. So, and there's not a lot of guys that, at least that I can think of off the top of my head, that are like Devin Vassell, where it's like Devin Vassell is not a superstar. He's not an all-star, but he does like pretty much everything good. I don't really think he does anything like great. And, it's going to be the real, tale to tell if he, can find something where he becomes great. If he goes from being a 19.5 points per game guy to being a 25 points per game guy, that's his thing. He's a scorer, right? And I think he's a scorer still, but he's a decent defender. He's not a great defender. He's a decent passer, not a great passer. He's a little bit below average rebounder for his position, but, he's playing with Victor Wembanyama now, so I'm not expecting this guy to get, 6 or 7 boards a night. He's hovering right around that 4 rebounds per game range, 4 assists per game range. He's getting like a steal a game. So he doesn't turn the ball over a lot. He doesn't foul a lot. He shoots a good percentage from 3. He was a 37% three-point shooter for his career, 44% from the field. I think this is a guy that has a place on pretty much any team in the league, right? It really is, like I say with, almost everything I discuss, it's really dependent on health. And if he can stay healthy, that's good. But I wouldn't look to trade this guy if I was the Spurs. I just don't think at this point in time that's something you need to do. He's still super young. I think he's like 23 or 24. Yeah, he's 24, just turned 24 over the summer in August. So, I know there's been rumors about them trading Keldon Johnson as well, but I don't know. The Spurs draft very well. So if I were them, I wouldn't really be looking to send guys out. I think what they did this offseason by signing Chris Paul and getting Harrison Barnes, that was all they need to do. I think now it's just keep these young guys on your team. They've shown improvement over the last couple of years. Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson. Wemby is clearly going to show a lot of, potential and, keep improving year after year. They have Stephon Castle now. So I think keep your young core together. You have very good young players. And, it's not out of the ordinary that they haven't, blossomed into all-stars yet. I think that's coming, right? And I think the Spurs are on track to be 5 years from now to being, a top 3 team in the league. If everything goes the right way and their guys stay healthy and they continue to improve like they are, Spurs are going to be, almost dynasty in the making. So you guys let me know what you think. What do you think about Devin Vassell? What do you think about the Spurs? You think they're going to make the play-in? You think they're going to make the playoffs? What does this team do next season? I'll catch you with the next one. Peace.